Good morning and welcome to Hot Seat. My guest is the Director of Communications for Governor Kevin Stitt, Abegail Cave. Abegail, good to have you.
Hi, thanks, Scott. Glad to be here.
So, have you done television interview before for the governor?
I have not. You're my first.
Thank you very much. Well, thanks for honoring us. For people that know the communications for the governor, there's a lot of media that covers the Capitol. Not as much as in the past, but your job as communications director, first let's start a little bit about you, and number two, what you do on a daily basis.
Absolutely, yes. So I came to work for Governor Stitt about a year and a half ago. I had lived in Washington, D.C. for 9 years before I moved out
That's
to
enough,
Oklahoma.
right?
That was plenty. Yes, loved my time out there, but I was excited for a different pace of life. So moved out to work for Governor Stitt, and it's been a joy. The people at the Capitol are great to work with. The governor's great to work for. So yeah, it's been great.
And originally, you're from out west, correct?
Yes, I grew up in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
All right, so that's certainly red country.
Yes.
Your job every day for this governor, he's been there 6 years now. There's been some changes with him. We're going to get that in just a second. But day to day, what do you do for the governor?
Yeah, so it's my team's job to monitor all of the media, everything that's going on in Oklahoma and nationally, keep him informed about what's happening, and then respond to requests coming into our office. We get everything from, what's going on in this agency, what's going on in this town in Oklahoma, to what's the governor's agenda today, what are we working on today. So it can be a wide variety, and the topic can, change on a dime. So we're just always kind of moving and grooving and trying to keep up.
So a lot to do there. And I'm wondering, people only have known Kevin Stitt for 6 years, most of us, right? Came from the private sector. And in the last year, there's been some changes. He's had a software upgrade on his heart. How's he doing?
He's doing great, very healthy. In our office, we do a lot of trading of barbs of who's the most athletic. We have some runners in our office. We have a lot of weightlifters in our office. So governor's, he's very competitive with us on who's doing the most activity.
Has that aspect affected him in terms of how he views health for Oklahomans and just staying in shape? He's pretty good shape, but that was a heart issue, right? That was undiscovered until
Right, yes.
test.
So when he first discovered this heart issue and, had his surgery, he had the opportunity to have a few of our, News 9 included, but some of our Capitol Press Corps came and did a piece on his cardio rehab, which was really cool to see. And he just had the opportunity to encourage Oklahomans to take that seriously, to go to the doctor, eat healthy, get some movement in every day. And yeah, he was excited to be able to spearhead that.
Besides the software upgrade, he also has got a different look. Where did the idea of the beard come from? How's the First Lady taking that? How's staff take the beard? Is there a statement in there somewhere?
I don't know if there's a statement. I think he's very happy with his beard, though. So, I think the beard looks great. I think I'd have to ask First Lady again, but she generally seems to be pro-beard. I don't think he would still have it if she was not pro-beard.
I think that's probably
yes.
correct.
I told him that, Paul Ryan, the former Speaker of the House, really hit peak popularity when he grew out his beard. So beard on politicians is a good look.
Okay, so that is what's up with him. Now, also, he's now the Vice Chair of the National Governors Association. I get that name right?
Correct.
NGA. Mm-hmm. How is that impacting your workload as well as his vision for the state in his last 2 years?
Yeah, so it's a really fun opportunity for him to be vice chair. The chair is Governor Polis from Colorado, who's a Democrat. And so that's how National Governors Association operates.
It's bipartisan.
It's bipartisan, so 1 year it'll be a Democrat chair, the next year it'll be a Republican chair. So starting in July, the governor will be the chair. And yeah, it's just a really great opportunity to kind of bring Oklahoma to the national stage and to the global stage. So Governor Polis's initiative is an education-focused initiative. It's called Let's Get Ready. So the governor's been able to talk about, some of the innovative things we're doing here in Oklahoma to move the needle on education. He loves to talk about Norman Aviation Academy and how they're helping educate kids in that like A&P mechanic, pilot kind of realm. So those kids can go from high school into a career path, a very lucrative career path. And then some of our other great education-focused charter schools and public schools around the state.
You had mentioned as the head of as vice chair, and then he'll finish as chair. He's very close to Governor Doug Burgum. and Governor Burgum's now Interior Secretary, but also known as the Energy Czar. The governor is uniquely positioned. He's been very pro oil and gas, but he's also been very pro renewables. He's gotten some pushback on that. For people that don't understand his philosophy on his energy vision, help us understand what it is.
Yes, well, Governor Stitt is first and foremost a free market guy. If somebody is willing to pay for your product, you should be able to provide that product to the market. So when it comes to oil and gas, obviously Oklahoma is bedrock oil and gas. We're number 6 in, I think we're number 6 in both oil and gas production right now in the nation, which is amazing. And, you know, we think about the Devons and the Continentals, and the Williams is just some of our most reliable industries in our state, and they do so much for their communities. So we love oil and gas. But also when there's a demand for wind or solar or hydrogen or, you know, any other number of new innovative energy technologies, the government shouldn't stand in the way of those, you know, bringing a product to market, just like we don't want the government to stand in the way of oil and gas companies bringing their product to market. So the governor was actually kind of inspired by you. You used the words energy abundance agenda in one of your interviews, and he was like, that's it. That's what we want. We want energy abundance agenda. Whatever we can do to power the nation and the world, let's bring it to market. So, you know, renewables are a part of that. Oklahoma uses about 47% renewables for our energy grid. But you also know that wind doesn't always blow, sun doesn't always shine, so you can't completely rely on those, and that's why we love our oil and gas industry. So more of everything, all of the above, whatever word you want to use, but yeah, energy abundance agenda is what we're working on this year.
There is, you also mentioned he's going to be talking about education, and there has been some media this week about his removal of 3 board members, and the word he used was drama. And we see this all over the country. We see politicians have gotten to where they understand this is how it's almost like cosplaying. You try to be somebody else just to attract the attention. The governor just said, I want to, you know, make sure that drama doesn't affect the kids. Why did he do this, and what is the real message that he wanted people to understand about this particular removal of these board members?
When he came into office, he wanted to put a fresh set of eyes on everything in state government. So that includes education, that includes, you know, some of our regulations and the way we were operating licenses and those sort of things. So, you know, he looked at this board and he said, hey, nationally, we're still, I think we're 47th or 48th in education. So what do we need to do to move that needle towards top 10? And it's not necessarily anything the board was doing wrong, but do we need to bring somebody else in with a different set of, you know, experiences that can bring some new life to this board? So that's what he did. And he does this with boards all the time. Usually they're not as publicly noticed as this one was. But yeah, so we've seen headlines for months, and Superintendent Walters has gotten a lot of attention for some of the things he said and done, and the governor just didn't see the needle moving. We're not getting better at education. Our NAEP scores came out, and we had actually gone down in quite a few of the categories. So the governor said it was time to change our focus a little bit. And then those rules came out, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where the superintendent wanted to get addresses and immigration status of kids in school. And the governor was pretty forthcoming and pretty decisive when he said, we're not going to go after kids. Like, we're going to go after illegal immigrants who have come here and committed crimes. That's why he started Operation Guardian, so we can start moving those people out of Oklahoma prisons. But we're not going to use kids as a political pawn.
Let me ask you about this particular session. This is his 7th that he's been the governor. Anything in particular that you see that he's emphasizing right now in terms of the 60th Oklahoma legislature?
Yeah, so he's pretty excited. We had 4 main goals for this session that he laid out in his State of the State. 1 was to protect the Oklahoma taxpayer. 2 was to be the best state for business. 3 was to safeguard our savings. And 4 was to protect the Oklahoma way of life. And so we have a few pieces of legislation we have our eyes on, but the one you'll hear him hammer most throughout this session is half and a path. So he wants a 0.5 point tax cut for our individual income and business income tax. But then he also wants to see a path to zero. States all around us are on this path to zero. Obviously, Texas has 0, Florida has 0, Tennessee has 0. So if we're going to compete with these states for businesses to come to our state, we need to be competitive in our tax rates. So yeah, he thinks, we'll see the BOE numbers on Friday, but it looks like we can get that 0.5 point, and then we can start giving more money back to the taxpayers in the form of a tax cut.
Speaking of that, his executive order for Doge, okay.
Yes.
Has there been any sort of confusion about that? There's been different takes on this I've seen in the media, but specifically, what is he wanting to do with that?
Yeah, so you will hear him say frequently that he has been doging since 2019, and he has. One of his very first executive orders when he came into office was to end lobbying contracts for state agencies. So some of our state agencies were signing contracts with lobbyists to go and, get legislative buy-in for some of the spending they wanted to do. And really, the only interest that an agency should be pursuing is the interest of all 4 million Oklahomans. So you shouldn't need a lobbyist for that. So the governor put an end to that. He got a lot of attention last year for putting in the executive order limiting the use of public relations contracts for state agencies. Again, that was a source of a lot of questionable spending being done. So the governor said, fine, let's get rid of that. And we've saved, so far in just our short amount of time going through all these contracts, already saved $1 million in taxpayer dollars on PR contracts. He's looking at our vehicle fleets. How many state vehicles do we have? Are they all being used efficiently? Are they sitting there for months on end, not being touched? So where we can cut down on those expenditures. So he's been doing Doge for a long time, but he wants to do a very intentional push in his last 2 years and make sure we have cut unnecessary spending where it can be cut, where we can save taxpayer dollars on employee count, on vehicles, on contracts, and just make sure we're running government as efficiently as possible.
You sit in a unique position in dealing with the media in Oklahoma. The Capitol Press Corps has shrunk. For years, there was not even a television reporter left at the state capitol, till Griffin rebooted with a reporter, and now Haley covers it for us at the Capitol. What is the media doing well? What could the media do better? And when you look at journalism in the next 10 years, what do you see that really is necessary for journalism to flourish?
That's a great question. I do think local media gets a lot of props in covering things that are of highest importance to their communities, which, we don't see that with our 24-hour news coverage. Our Capitol Press Corps, and I'll give a lot of shout outs to Haley Weger from Griffin. They know the questions to ask. They know who to ask those questions to. And then they report fairly, which is really important. We don't see that in some of the national news outlets. Haley has to come into work and see the people she reports on, so she's going to do it fairly, and she's going to correct mistakes when she's wrong, and she's going to do everything she can to not make those mistakes in the first place. And I think a good chunk of our Capitol Press Corps ascribes to that level of reporting. I do think the sentiment and the way we do news is going to continue to shift as Twitter continues to be kind of the fastest way to get news, which has its ups and its downs. The commitment to accuracy lacks a little bit when you're trying to do news at that speed.
We sort of hit on this earlier, which was basically we've seen, and you brought up Twitter, that going negative really does get eyeballs, and that being like cosplaying or being dramatic actually gets a lot of attention. We see that with bills. People introduce bills that have no chance in the world of passing, but they get clicks and they get into news cycles. So with personalities, a lot of people describe Elon Musk as the smartest 15-year-old in the room, and people like that take enormous amounts of attention. How can media do a better job of using their filter to winnow out the nonsense? And there are a lot of people that are good at that and really get down to the issues that affect people at home in their daily life.
I mean, part of it's just being close to the people that you're serving. So, we have to go home to our neighbors every day. We have to go home to our, husbands and wives and families. And are you covering the issues that are impacting them? I'm trying to think of a great example, but some of this legislation that you speak of, it's like, I don't want to say anything specifically, but there are some crazy bills out there that
every year
that really don't have impacts on the things that are that moms and dads are talking about at the kitchen table. So is the media spending more time covering that crazy bill, or are they spending more time covering the maybe less sexy issue of how are we making it easier for people to open businesses? How are we making it easier for kids to get the education they need? Or are they focusing on some radical bill that somebody is just trying to do to get headlines. The governor says this all the time. It's about outcomes. It's not about headlines. So how are we balancing that? You know, you obviously need to, you're a company, you're a business, you have to make money, but you know, is your job to make the money, or is your job to keep the people informed? And that's a delicate balance that I'm very sympathetic to.
One time, a famous journalist one time said, our job is to, say one person say it's raining, another person saying it's not raining. Our job is to go open up the door, look outside, and see if it's raining. So it's an interesting thing. Mm-hmm. Abegail Cave is the Director of Communications for Governor Stitt. This was her first television interview. I know most people want to talk to the governor. I wanted to talk to you, and I really do appreciate you coming in and having this visit.
Absolutely, and the governor will love to come back as soon as possible. So
thank you very much, Abigail.
Absolutely, thank you.
And thanks for watching Hot Seat. See this again at news9.com and news6.com, and follow me at Mitchell Talks.